Boom! Welcome into SportsBit 2.0 Betting Insight today, Wednesday, March 14th. Pauly and Teddy at Teddy_covers on Twitter. I'm at Real SportsBit, where we post the shows and videos every single day and a few picks. Big game breakdown. Oklahoma, Rhode Island to start the day tomorrow. Miami against Loyola. The Ramblers and NC State against Seton Hall. We'll turn the shot clock on as well. I had 2 shot clock violations in the same rant yesterday, so I'll try to shorten it as well. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books coming up. Teddy, let's start with Tankapalooza 2018. Bill Simmons tweet, quality tanking tonight, stealth tanking. Couldn't help it tanking. Even out tanking, it was a tanking buffet. I'm stuffed. You look at these records, Teddy, where most people say, the experts, it's a 6-7 player draft, so it's the perfect storm. Atlanta and Orlando have 20 wins. The Bulls have 23. And then you have Memphis with 18 wins, Phoenix with 19, Sacramento with 21, Dallas with 22. Memphis has lost 18 games in a row. I don't know if they win a game the rest of the year.
Yeah, Memphis is pretty ugly. But last night, for the Tankapalooza, the unapologetic tanking that Bill Simmons is talking about, I mean, no-shows from the Hawks and the Knicks and the Magic and the Suns, all of them, complete no-shows. And remember, for all of this tanking and all of this losing, what do you get? You get an extra ping pong ball in a lottery, or a couple of extra ping pong balls in a lottery. That's a lot of suffering to make your fan base go through for the hope that one of these guys is going to pan out and the ping pong balls will land in your favor.
Yeah. Hawks tried. They had the lead in the fourth quarter, and then the Thunder ran them out in the last 5 minutes. But it was, I'll tell you what, you can add a team to the list. The Pistons, they're not tanking. They've quit on Van Gundy. Oh, a no-show in Utah. How about the NIT chalk last night? Other than USC late, and we'll get to Asheville taking money, Baylor got the money. Louisville got the money if you bet it late. Middle Tennessee, Western Kentucky, Oklahoma State, St. Mary's, Oregon. What the hell happened, Teddy?
All of them. Against the closing numbers, 8-0 start before NC Asheville covered against USC late. And normally, that's not what we expect to see in the NIT, where there are a lot of lethargic home teams. But many of the lethargic home teams in their opener found enough energy to survive and advance. Louisville, of course, one that landed right between the number. We'll talk about that when it comes to bad beats, bad bets. But, the Oregon game certainly stands out as a bad beat, Pauly, one that was really ugly if you had Ryder plus the 11.
Remember, they're playing 4 quarters in the NIT with the new rules. Ryder led by 4 in the fourth quarter. And they were catching 11, but Oregon won 99-86.
Yeah, big run out for the Ducks in the fourth quarter of that contest. And I know, the first time I'm looking, I'm like, wait a minute, the score is 16-13 and there's 2 minutes left in the first half. What's going on? No, there's 2 minutes left in the first quarter. NIT with the significant rule changes. You're talking about a wider paint than they play in the regular season, a further 3-point line they play in the regular season. Bunch of games took over money last night. And you know what? The NIT chalk was good and the NIT unders were good. The rule changes certainly helped underbettors last night.
Yeah, they pounded that. That was surprising with a lot of those games staying under. Bad bets. What are they doing betting the Knicks? Plus 2.5. Went off the favorite. Lost to the Mavs.
Sometimes you just got to laugh, man. I mean, really,
yes.
I was watching the Knicks money coming in. I'm like, who's doing that? It's got to be the same guys who were betting the Browns all year in the NFL.
Yes.
It's like, let's find the worst team we can find that has no interest in winning, and let's bet on them in a game they have to win to cover. It was a baffling move to me. Hopefully you had Dallas and were able to cash in on another no-show from the Porzingis-less New York Knickerbockers.
Teddy, it's been that way for 2 years. There's value on the Browns. No, there's not. You haven't cashed the ticket in 2 months. There's no value on the Browns. All right, one more. Wagner, bad matchup, going against Baylor and all their size. Wagner was 351 in the nation in size, and Baylor took him apart.
Yeah, and really a big second-half run-out for the Bears. Wagner took a ton of money. That was plus 16 at the open in some spots.
Yes.
Closed plus 13. They hung around for a while, but the last 10 minutes of that game were pretty ugly for Wagner supporters. That, Mr. Howard, was a bad bet.
All right, middle alert. You have the Louisville. Remember, this opened 9.5, 9, and then word leaking out the players voted against the NIT and didn't want to play. Closed 7, 7.5, and boom, right in the middle, they beat Northern Kentucky by 8.
Yeah, bouncing right back and forth across the number in the closing minute. That was a sweat, whichever side you had. And of course, for the bookmakers, it was not a sweat they enjoyed. It landed right in the middle.
All right. Got one right. Radford controlled and was going to dictate tempo. We had that right. They were bet up from 3.5 to 5.5, and the under took money. Play of the day winner with the under 71-61 play-in game, Radford over Brooklyn.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what. The odds makers, we give the odds makers a ton of credit because they deserve a ton of credit. It's not easy to make lines on all these games. I don't know. This is one of their better the lines they set better. Radford playing one of the weakest defensive teams in the history of the NCAA field. They controlled the flow. They controlled the tempo. They won and covered. That was a bad result for the books. No question. The wise guys dominated that contest. They won a bunch of money on the NCAA tourney opener last night.
Yep, a lot of bad for the books. Rough night for the shops. We like to see that. T-Wolves, Wizards over 216 to 218.5. 227 combined points in that one. Towns was terrific. Magic and Spurs steam there. 206 down to 200.5. Magic run out in that one.
Yeah, I mean, for Minnesota and Washington, I'll tell you what. The Wizards had that burst without John Wall. They look tired on defense right now. Couldn't get stops. They're now number 21 overall defensive efficiency since the All-Star break. And the latest word on Wall, I just read this morning, doesn't look good for his immediate return. They were hoping 6 to 8 weeks. It's a 6-week mark today. And John Wall, he's not ready. Let's just put it that way.
No.
For San Antonio, I mean, Orlando was rough last night. I'll just put it that way. The under 206 down to 2.5. Never in doubt. Complete no-show from the Magic.
Clippers, 5.5 up to 7.5. It lands 6. Most of that money came late. Pistons and Jazz under 199 to 195. And the Jazz from 7.5 to 9. Are you kidding? 110 to 79. The Pistons were never in the game. They have quit on Van Gundy. Go back on Twitter and check out some of the videos of Blake Griffin. I don't know what it was. He wasn't playing defense. I don't know what he was doing.
The Pistons aren't doing a whole lot right now. This was a good game for me in my bankroll last night. Certainly, Utah took a ton of money. Utah deserved to take a ton of money. There was a little sweat for the underbettors, but from a side perspective, that game was over after the first quarter. It was 42 to 21 after one.
Right.
And it was no sweat thereafter. When the Jazz have that kind of lead, their defense is phenomenal. They slowed down the pace, stayed under by margin.
And word got out here, no Metu of USC. Also, USC administration made the decision. I don't think the players wanted to play in the NIT as well, and that showed Asheville from 18 down to 15.5. USC wins in double overtime.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with Louisville, with USC, these teams, we really had questions about their motivation. Let's give them some credit for actually winning the game. They stepped up when it happens, and that says something for, hey, motivation or no motivation. Once the ball's in the air, players tend to show up and enjoy playing basketball. But from a point spread perspective, NC Asheville never in doubt. Plus 18 down to plus 15.5. They covered wire to wire. One of many rough results for the house from last night, Paul.
All right, it is here. We start tomorrow with Oklahoma and Rhode Island. Big game breakdown. 3 games coming up. And a bookmaker told me the wrong team's favored in a 11-6 matchup. We'll get to that straight ahead on SportsBit 2.0 Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Hey, back on SportsBit Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, SportsBit 2.0. Here we go. Big game breakdown. It starts the day tomorrow, 12:15 Eastern, Oklahoma and Rhode Island. No surprise. Everyone thinks Oklahoma stinks. Nothing but Rhode Island money. They're up to 2 and 158 the total. What a horror show for Oklahoma after December. They haven't won a road game since 2017. They've lost 10 straight away from home. They're 2-8 in their last 10. Maybe Trae Young's getting tired. His teammates aren't that good. They're starting to figure him out. I'm a little disappointed in Lon Kruger, who's a great coach. Either way, it's been an unmitigated disaster for Oklahoma the last 2 months, Teddy. Also went 1-7 in February straight up.
Yeah, and they got an at-large bid to the tournament, leaving the Middle Tennessee states of the world at home. But the bottom line, of course, the winner here faces Duke, so it's likely to be a one-and-done for the winner. But this is Sooners team now. What, they're 2-8 over their last 10, 3-12 over their last 15 ball games. Teams that go 3-12 over the last 15 should not get NCAA at-large bids, regardless of what they did in November and December. The committee didn't think it that way, so we handicapped the game. Trae Young over the last 10 games. Look at the graphic. The theory, well, Trae Young wore down over the course of the season. Really ugly numbers over the last 10 games. Shooting percentage, three-point shooting percentage, the turnovers were high, et cetera, et cetera. But you can make a counter argument there. You say, Trae Young, he was less effective because the Big 12 was really good, and on the second looks around the league, teams adjusted to him. I think there's some truth to that. And, of course, the concept of Oklahoma being an exhausted team right now, well, they've only played once in the last 13 days. They will be relatively fresh for this one.
Yeah, and they lost in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, got beat by Oklahoma State. So how about Lon Kruger, the head coach? Quote, this year is probably as unique as any we've ever had in terms of getting off to such a hot start. And then kind of the other extreme where all of a sudden we're not making shots, we're not energized, we're not doing the things that making the shots earlier provided us. As a group, we got kind of codependent on making shots. That provided energy, that provided every aspect, better defensively rebounding. When we didn't make shots, it seemed we lost our swagger, lost our confidence, end quote. And Young, too, was taking some bad shots as he shoots from Curry land a lot of the times. Now, did Rhode Island wear down? They had that long winning streak where I think they got as high as number 15 in the country. And then they had that weird loss where they were blown out on senior night by 30 by St. Joe's, blew a 6-point lead late to Davidson. And then, even though Davidson only made one field goal in the last 13 minutes, still beat them by one in the Atlantic 10 title game.
Yeah, I mean, Rhode Island certainly hasn't been making anybody money. 4-4 straight up, 2-6 against the spread to close out the regular season and conference tournament action. And we talked earlier in the show about Stan Van Gundy. And Stan Van Gundy kind of gets this guy starting to tune him out as the season progresses. Danny Hurley's, he's an intense coach, an intense head coach.
Yeah.
The team played intense defense. I really wonder if the team has tuned him out a little bit at this stage of the game. If that big winning streak used up a little bit too much energy. I'm not sold on Rhode Island as being the better of these two teams, even though they are the favorites in this ball game. But there's something that really works well for Rhode Island when it comes to the matchups, and that's their two guards. The senior guards, Ed Matthews and Jared Terrell. These are excellent defenders and two guys who are probably going to relish the challenge of guarding a guy who's gotten a whole lot of hype like Trae Young. And there's a huge difference in these two defenses, Paulie. When you look at the graphic, it's really clear. Rhode Island, number 5 in turnover percentage. Oklahoma, number 261. So the ball pressure shows Rhode Island has been the superior defensive team, but Kruger versus Curley, pick 'em. Or Hurley, I should say. I'll probably look at the Kruger side of that equation. Oklahoma plus the points makes more sense to me than laying with Rhode Island.
And if everyone's going to be on Rhode Island, and that seems to be the case as well. NC State, Seton Hall. This is a 8-9 matchup, 4:30 Eastern. Seton Hall 2.5, 157.5 the total. Winner gets Kansas. Experience for Seton Hall. You look at 4 senior starters, over 13,000 minutes and over 5,000 points, but they haven't got a W in the tournament, Teddy. And this is another team that was off to a great start non-conference and had a good resume, and then they struggled down the stretch.
Sure, and with Seton Hall, it felt to me like this whole season was a grind. They were this is a squad that I feel has the potential to flip a switch here in the tournament. I really do. Because they've been to the Big Dance East the last 2 years, came away without a victory. That's a tough conference, and they didn't play their best basketball in February. But I do think the potential is there for this senior-laden squad. Yeah, let's see that graphic one more time. Carrington, Delgado, Rodriguez, Sanogo, these guys have been monsters for this program. And when you look at all those minutes, 13,614 floor minutes for those guys. And guys that have been to the big dance before. You say, is this the Buffalo Bills? You get to the Super Bowl every year and you lose? I mean, it feels like there's a lot of pressure on Seton Hall, but it also feels to me like they might be ready for that pressure.
Then you have NC State. Keats came in. Great job his first year. He came from Wilmington. When he took them to the tournament, they should have won a game in the tournament last year as they were high-flying and they could score. But you look at this group, the NC State starters, Freeman's the only senior that starts. Then you got a junior, 2 sophomores, and a freshman. And Freeman played 96 minutes over 5 tourney games with Baylor in 3 seasons. He's the transfer. No one else has any kind of postseason experience. They lost to BC in the first round of the ACC. Will this be decided? Because Seton Hall's got some size, some big guys. Will it be the battle of the boards that decides the winner in this one?
It might. I mean, Seton Hall has a legitimate edge in the paint in this ballgame when it comes to rebound. I mean, you look at the numbers. Take the graphic right here. Seton Hall offensive rebounding percentage. They're one of the top 30 teams in the country at snaring offensive boards. When you look at the NC State side of the equation, how well do they do at keeping their opponents off the offensive glass? Well, they're number 307 in that category. Extra possessions equals easy putbacks for the Pirates. That, to me, likely to be a difference maker in this one.
All right, I can't wait for this game. One more. Loyola of Chicago, the Ramblers against Miami. 6-11 matchup. Tony Miller at the Golden Nugget here in Las Vegas told me the wrong team is favored. Miami is 2, 133.5 the total, 310 Eastern. Winner gets, maybe Tennessee. And Wright State could have something to say about that. It's surprised you saw this last year. Middle Tennessee was a 12. They were favored over Minnesota, the 5, and here Miami is the 6, and they're only laying 2. The numbers are strong, and you have my attention. I don't care what league you play in when you win 28 games, and Loyola went to Florida earlier this year and won. They don't foul. They play terrific defense, and they shoot the 3 well, Teddy.
Sure. I mean, when you look at the statistical profile, it's an impressive statistical profile, no question. The offensive effective field goal percentage, number 8 in the country. 3-point shooting percentage, number 13 in the country. 2-point shooting percentage, number 14 in the country. And total defense, number 24 in the country. You say, wow, those are really good stats. They won at Florida? Holy shit. This team's really good. Well, they lost at Boise 87-53. Their non-conference strength of schedule, with the exception of the Florida game, well, including the Florida game, their non-conference strength of schedule ranked number 315. The stat appeal is there. The stats are good for Loyola. Can they really bang with Miami? I mean, they got the point guard, Clayton Custer. He's kind of a cool kid with a great name, Clayton Custer. 13.5 points, 4.5 assists per game. But Miami's talented. Miami has more talent than Loyola Chicago. But it's a young lineup that Jim Larrañaga has brought to the table.
And then Miss Brown, who's been out for 12 games, they don't have a go-to guy. No player averages more than 12 points per game. That's something that could be concerned about. Their starters, Newton's a senior, Lawrence a junior. Then you have a sophomore and 2 freshmen as well. Larrañaga's a terrific coach, but could the size of Miami. Now, Loyola, even for a mid-major, though, they got a big guy down low. I watched that Missouri Valley tournament. They got a big guy down low who can play a little bit, too, and Loyola can shoot it from 3. But what do you think about the size factor and what a possible wild card could be?
Well, I mean, Duane Hewell's really good for Miami. A low-post defender who I think has potential to give Loyola a problem. But what you see now, what you see in March, is some random win from November against a team that wasn't focused, that wasn't paying attention, and was distracted, like the win Loyola had at Florida, has an enormous impact in the betting marketplace. I'm not buying the Ramblers as 2 points different than Miami. I know the markets are. I'm not. We'll get back to this game when it comes to play of the daytime.
All right, up next, we'll turn on the shot clock. The commercials we're already sick of. There'll be a lot of these coming up next on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Back on SportsBit, Pauly and Teddy. Here we go with all these games, 4 networks with all the action. So that means get ready for the same commercial over and over and over again. What are you sick of, Teddy? We got to go back a few years, but this one still counts because it's still in your head.
The incredible thing about it, dude, is that I'm sitting there last night. We're like, okay, we're going to talk about which commercial is annoying us the most. And I start thinking, and I'm like, you know what commercial annoys me the most? It's that freaking Napa know-how from like 2 years ago, and it's still in my head. When they have a commercial that sticks in my head 2 years later, that's the worst commercial in history. Napa, screw off. That's the commercial I hate.
Yeah, get ready for this, too. State Farm ads all over the place. Chris Paul, Harden, Ariza. They're singing Backstreet Boys. I got the charades of the State Farm agent. It's nonstop. And by the way, Chris Paul, a hell of a player. How about you make it to a conference final before you're in 10 commercials and with all these endorsements as well? And a runner-up? Oh, my God. I don't know what. It's the phone company. Teddy, you get a line. Juan, you get a line. What's your name? Bill, you get a line. I mean, that lady's so annoying. Get ready because you're going to see the same ads over. And Charles Barkley, Samuel Jackson for Capital One, and Spike Lee. I know Pina Colada was stuck in your head last year as well. So there it is. So we turned the shot clock on for commercials we're already sick of. Money time, play of the day. You teased it back to Miami and Loyola. What are we doing?
Yeah, let's give a big screw you to everyone that's talking about Loyola as the upset special. Play of the day, game number 736. Miami, Florida, the Hurricanes. Early start action tomorrow. Let's give Miami -2 against the Ramblers. Yeah, our first tourney pick. See if we can cash a winner. Hurricanes -2. That's the play of the day.
All right. Very good. We made it. We're back tomorrow to run through everything with the brackets. I'll throw some props at you. You won't believe a local prop on a 14 seed to win a game. We'll run through all that coming up. Can't wait for tomorrow. Some say the 4 best days in sports. Talk to you at SportsBet 2.0, at Real SportsBet on Twitter, and at Teddy_Covers. Talk to you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.